All right, well, we'll go ahead and just get things kicked off here. Thanks to everyone for joining us today, for hopping in for the Grundy County local update meeting. Really, the purpose of today's conversation, the purpose of today's presentation is just to provide you locally with some insight into the work the program is doing and how your students are faring, certainly up against their statewide peers and the progress we're making really to impact higher education across the state. My name is Tyler Ford. I'm Director of Mentors with TNAchieves. I think I've certainly spoken with you, Millicent, before. I believe I've spoken with Angela as well. So happy to be on here today. It's obviously a pretty small group in here. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to just ask those and we'll get those covered. But really where I want to kick off is just first by saying thank you for joining us, and second by giving just a little bit of a background or a refresher on the work TNAchieves does in general. So TNAchieves is a privately funded nonprofit organization that partners with the state of Tennessee in 90 of the state's 95 counties to administer the Tennessee Promise Scholarship. So that means we're out there in the communities making sure students are meeting deadlines, up to date on requirements, and they're on the right track to not only enroll in college, but ultimately receive this scholarship funding as well. As it stands today, since the program's inception in 2008 in Knox County, we've had the opportunity to work with more than 440,000 students across the state and over 671,000 volunteers across the state. So certainly been able to have a wide impact there. And every single year too, we have the chance to work with more than 600 high schools and 67 eligible institutions across the state. So really working to impact, obviously, a lot of students, a lot of volunteers are supporting our students, and then we also have the opportunity clearly to work with a lot of different high school partners and college partners in this work. I do want to kind of break it down though a little bit and share some individual components of our work. Obviously, Tennessee Promise is kind of the banner piece of what we do. This is the last dollar scholarship component that makes it possible for seniors anywhere in the state of Tennessee to enroll in community or technical college and do so tuition and mandatory fee free. That's an opportunity that not every student in every state across the country has the chance to do, but our seniors here in Tennessee do, and that's that's a pretty unique chance, and that's something we're leading the way in that we're excited about. We also obviously know that financial support for these students is important. Many students will need the financial support to go to college, but we also know that many of those same students need non-financial supports as well. Which is why we pair every student that applies for Tennessee Promise and completes their FAFSA with a volunteer mentor. And that's someone from their community who is just there to guide them through the college going process, there to support them in their college going journey. And I'll share a little bit more about the mentoring role and also just what it's going to look like in 2022 as we conclude the presentation. But that's certainly a key component of our work. But we also feel like it's important for students to have a little bit of skin in the game. If they're going to receive local supports to go to college, if they're going to receive local financial support to go to college, we want them to have a little bit of skin in the game. And that's exactly why we ask each student to complete and submit 8 hours of community service for every semester they're enrolled using Tennessee Promise. We want them to give back a little bit. We want them to engage in their community. And that's exactly why community service has been a piece of this program since it began, and it's a piece to this day. We also want to make sure, though, that students are successful in actually graduating college and actually finishing what they started. Just getting them in the door is good, and it's progress, but we need to make sure they're leaving with a degree or credential in hand. And for that reason, we offer a couple different programs and a couple different supports to help students graduate, to help students finish. First I'll mention is the summer programs that we offer. These are 3 to 10 week programs that we offer over the summer months that take and are targeted to some of our most academically at-risk students to help make sure that they're beginning college, or at least have the chance to begin college at a college-ready level. We provide them the chance to test out of some learning support classes that they may require. Now, not every student is able to test out by the end of the program, but we do see consistently that students students improve in their scores if they participate in this program. And even more so, if nothing else, they leave this program feeling more prepared for college. They feel more ready to hit the ground running in the fall semester because they've had a few weeks over the summer in a slightly less high stress environment to prepare, to familiarize themselves with this environment so that when they start, they're ready to hit the ground running and not is caught off guard or set behind, maybe by some early anxieties they may face. We also have started in the past 2 years offering what we call Complete. This is a proactive coaching model in which some of, again, our at-risk students who are less likely to persist and graduate in college, are paired with a full-time staff member from the Tennessee Achieves team whose really only job is to consistently reach out to them throughout their college career and connect with them. We want to make sure that the obstacles these students encounter, the hurdles these students may encounter in their college going journey are just that. They're obstacles and hurdles, but they don't prevent the student from graduating. They don't cause the student to drop out. It's our belief that if we can catch some of those things sooner in this outreach, we can help to make sure they aren't immense roadblocks later on for those students. And we've got data, which I'll share here in a minute, on both the summer programs as well as this coaching model that show that it is positively impacting students' outcomes, and we're really excited about that. But before I go into that local data and before we start sharing some of that progress, I do want to talk just a little bit more about the program's reach, the communities we're serving and the students we're serving. So Tennessee Achieves, as it stands today, is serving 90 counties, 74 of which are considered rural counties, 35 of which are considered at-risk or distressed counties by the Department of Economic and Community Development. Like I said earlier, we serve more than 600 high schools, 601 high schools to be exact, and 67 colleges. I think a really interesting point on this slide, though, is when we look at where are our students enrolling. We see that 11% are enrolling at a TCAT. Now that's the Tennessee College of Applied Technology. And that number has actually increased since the program was introduced. And we would love to see this increase even more so in the years to come, because those TCATs represent a really impactful and great opportunity for our students. It's the chance to get a degree or credential fairly quickly after their college career, their high school career, and enter the workforce. So while it's increased, again, we'd love to see it increase even more. 79% of our students will enroll at a community college and 10% at a four-year college pursuing an associate's degree. So certainly the community college path is the popular path here, but we're seeing more students choose that TCAT route. And again, a lot of great options for students. No matter where they choose to attend, they can find a path that we think works well for them and will help them to grow academically and in their career. 89% of all Tennessee high school seniors are Tennessee Achieves students. Each and every year, we are able to work with more than 60,000 high school seniors, and that represents a pretty significant chunk of the high school seniors across the state. 78% of all first-time freshmen at community colleges in the state of Tennessee are Tennessee Achieves students, and 86% of all Tennessee community college graduates are Tennessee Achieves students. And what this just shows is that a significant chunk of the students beginning at community colleges and finishing at community colleges are students that are at one point impacted by our programming. Speaking specifically to the students themselves, we find that about 56% of our students are eligible for federal financial aid, meaning they do tend to fall in to the low income category. 40% of our students are first generation college students. And this is the sort of student we've always targeted, a student who's the first in their family to go to college and who may be a low income student and need a little bit of additional financial support to realize their goal of attaining a college credential. Additionally, 51% of our students are majoring in health science and STEM related fields. And I do want to just take a second to address kind of the cost for all of this programming. So Tennessee Promise itself costs $32 million each year in scholarship funding. $2.5 million, though, is the cost that it takes for Tennessee Achieves for our organization to operate, which, when you consider the fact that we're impacting 60,000 students each and every year, almost 90% of all seniors across the state, that's a budget that we're pretty proud of. It's a fairly good cost to impact that many students. Now, before I kind of pivot here and start sharing some more local Grundy County data, are there any questions over anything that I've presented so far?
So you're not, this is, But you're a nonprofit, so do you all work with donations?
We do. Yes. So our operating costs are raised through, private donations. We do, for some of our programming, receive a little bit of money from the state for some of that programming. But generally speaking, we are a nonprofit organization that receives local or, donations to make our program possible.
Okay.
And again, I'll jump into some of the local data here, but if you have any questions as I go through this, just jump in. Now, as we look at Grundy County specifically, a couple, really good highlights that I want to focus on. One, FAFSA filing. The FAFSA, if you're familiar with it, it is a beast. It is difficult to complete. It is a lot of steps and it can be confusing. This is the free application for federal student aid, the thing that makes Tennessee Promise and all other scholarship funding possible. In Grundy County, students are filing at a rate of 94%. And that's 8% higher than the statewide total. So certainly a big highlight there that I wanted to stress. We also see that in Grundy County, students have completed nearly 9,000 hours of community service against a statewide total of about 3.3 million. And I like to stress this point because I think that the community service piece of this program is one that doesn't necessarily get all the buzz, all the highlights, but it is an important piece of this program. To see students out there in the community giving back these hours locally is certainly a good benefit of this program. And we love to see it each and every year, students engaging in their community. And 9,000 hours locally is certainly an exciting, and hopefully it has helped to benefit the community. Speaking again to Grundy County specifically, we've got 145 students who applied for Tennessee Promise last year. 76 students have enrolled using Tennessee Promise. But really, I think two of the highlights that I wanted to stress, the first year retention rate locally in Grundy County is 63%. The statewide number is 67%. So it's a little bit behind, about 4% behind, but that's not a significant gap. That could be just a difference of a few students retaining from year to year. So it's right there with what we see as the statewide average. Now, the 3-year graduation rate is 12 points higher than the statewide number there. That's a big win. To see students outpacing the state, to see students getting their degree or credential, that reflects well on the community and certainly something that we're happy to be able to come on here and share. So retention, again, it's right there with the state and graduation outpacing it, which we're happy to see. I do want to speak a little bit about how students are retaining and graduating against their peers who are not a part of this program. So what we see is that TNAchieves students who enroll at a Tennessee Promise eligible institution retain at a rate about 14 points higher than their peers who do not. TNAchieves students who enroll anywhere at any college retain about 21% higher than their peers who are not a part of the program. So certainly positive data there. But even more so, I think I want to highlight the graduation number, because TNAchieves students who are enrolling at a community college, which we know it's about 79% of them, as we saw earlier, they're graduating at a rate about 16 points higher than their non-TNAchieves peers. So what these data points show, what this just stresses, is that when students are part of this program, when they're able to receive scholarship funding, they're able to focus on what really matters as a college student. And that's going to classes, that's being successful, that's asking questions. And it's not as much, how am I going to pay for next semester? Or how am I going to get the supports I need? So this program is having a positive impact on student retention and graduation across the state. And like I mentioned earlier, we're working to impact this even more with some additional programming beyond the Tennessee Promise and mentor support. So we've got summer programs available for our students, which we talked about earlier. We also have that complete coaching model, where we're taking students who are at risk and proactively coaching them. Students who participate in the summer program are 34% more likely to retain than their peers who do not. And students who are part of that complete coaching model are 23% more likely to retain than their peers who are not. So those are certainly having a positive impact on student retention. We also have Knox Promise. This is a brand new program that's taking some local dollars in Knox County and providing coaching for students in Knox County, but also some additional financial support should students need it. Students who are part of that program program are retaining at a rate about 42% higher than their peers who are not. So these programs are kind of packaging together to help improve student retention and hopefully, as we'll see, improving student graduation rates, which we're really excited about. But as we look ahead to 2022 and to really what the big challenge is right now, we think about the college going rate across the state. We had made, as you can see on this slide, pretty significant progress in college going since the introduction of Tennessee Promise in 2014. We had held steady since Tennessee Promise was introduced. But what the pandemic has done has caused college going rates across the state really to drop in a pretty big way, about 5% across the state. Now, as we look at Grundy County, I'm kind of an outlier here in that college going actually did go up by about 2 points in 2020. So that's a big positive in a year where across the state, we saw college going decrease pretty significantly. But, we want to make sure statewide and in Grundy County that we get the college going right back where we want it. We're seeing that progress already in Grundy County, and we want to continue across the state to get this number pointed in the right direction. But with 60,000 students set to apply this year, with significant obstacles that students still face, we need your help to make that possible. Encouraging college going and encouraging engagement in this process, that's something that we can't do alone. And that's kind of where I want to talk a little bit more about the importance of mentoring and what it's going to look like in the coming year. So like I said earlier, mentoring is ultimately about just supporting students through the college going process. It's about guiding them when they may have questions or concerns. And in 2022, we're going to make some kind of slight changes to the mentoring model to help you find success, given kind of this new normal that we find ourselves in. So mentors are going to be continuing to serve their students by reaching out bi-weekly using calling, texting, emailing, and Tennessee Achieves Connect. But we're also going to ask that mentors meet with their students virtually if they'd like, but we're also going to offer in-person open house meetings for mentors who would like to gather with their students in an in-person environment, because we know that just can't be replaced in some cases. So we are going to add that back in 2022 to allow for that in-person connection. But I want to stress mentoring is going to continue to take just 1 hour per month because we know that time commitment piece is important for our volunteers, many of which are very busy already. But the 3 essential roles that we ask our mentors to serve, those aren't going to change. We ask mentors to be task managers, resources, and encouragers. Obviously, there are dates and deadlines that go into staying Tennessee Promise eligible. That's where the task manager piece comes into play. Mentors serve as a resource for those students, particularly those first-generation college students who may need just a little bit of extra help and a little bit of extra guidance through the process. But I think most importantly, and I think honestly most importantly in terms of just shifting college going back in the right direction, is the encourager piece. We are in a time where students face challenges. They face obstacles in every way they turn, it seems like. Being an encourager and being a positive force in a student's inbox to encourage them through this process, I think we're going to find that in 2022, that role specifically is the biggest difference maker for our students. Now, in Grundy County, we need 22 mentors this year to meet local need. So certainly hard at work already to meet that goal. If you're interested, I think both of you currently serve as mentors, I believe. And if you're interested in returning or coming back, you can just visit tnachieves.org/mentors and join us by December 3rd. But I do want to stress there are a couple other ways you can kind of support Tennessee Achieves and continue on this progress that we're seeing. Hopefully today what we've done is shared some positive local data. I think the results in Grundy County are overall pretty positive, whether it's with college going, ticking up this year, whether it's in that graduation rate. We want to make sure to continue this progress. So obviously becoming a mentor is one way that you can help to continue this progress. But I would also add that you can help to connect Tennessee Achieves in the community. One of the ways that we've been able to work with 71,000 volunteers is by going out and sharing this story and sharing this local data with civic organizations and local groups that may be interested in this sort of story. So if you know of anyone or know of any groups, just email mentors@TNAchieves.org, and we'd be happy to share resources or set up a date and time. But you can also, quite honestly, just tell someone about Tennessee Promise and the work that Tennessee Achieves is doing. Whether it's a student who needs to apply for Tennessee Promise or someone you know who might be interested in volunteering and giving back that 1 hour per month, you can share this with someone you know, because quite honestly, we just can't replace the word of mouth that active volunteers and active community members are able to spread and share about this program. It truly is one of the most impactful resources we have. So certainly, if you have any questions or would like to engage in any of these ways, reach out to us at mentors@tnachieves.org, or you can email me directly at tyler@tnachieves.org, and we'll be happy to help with that. But again, as we wrap up, I want to thank you for joining us here today. And I want to thank you for the work you're doing to impact student outcomes in Grundy County, because we're seeing some positive trends. And we want to make sure that in the year to come and the year after and the year after that, we continue this growth and we continue to see students on the right track towards college retention, graduation, and enrollment. So thank you again for joining us today. And if you have any questions at all, go ahead and jump in, because I'd be happy to take those.
I'm on the Sewanee Civic Association board, so I'll be contacting you about what I can do in combination with them.
Awesome. That sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. But like I said, if you need anything, shoot me an email and I'll look out for your email, Millicent. But we appreciate you joining us today.
All right.